When you're trying to answer a grammar question, the first thing to do is look at the choices and determine what kinds of words or what kind of phrases do you have in the choices. In this case, we have verbs. Focuses, focus, are focused, were focused. These are all verbs. And when you see verbs, the next thing to think about is subject-verb agreement. Singular and plural. Is this verb supposed to be singular? Is it supposed to be plural? And to determine that, we need to find the subject of the sentence. And this is usually, especially on questions like these, harder ones, where we run into some issues. What is the subject of this sentence? So it says, although each one of these plays, which include Henry V and Richard III, blank on a single historical figure. And normally I'd finish reading the whole sentence, but I'm just going to stop there for the sake of this video. So what sort of verb should go here? Well, what's the subject? We might think, the subject is Henry V and Richard III. It's right before the verb, and a lot of times the subject comes right before the verb. Indeed it is, but these are not the subjects here because, in fact, they are part of this phrase or this clause, which is commaed off, and it's not part of the main sentence. So really can't include that subject. So if you thought because this is the subject, the verb should be plural, well, that may not be correct. Well, moving on then, what about the word plays? Kind of staying in the main sentence. What about plays? Is the plays that focus on a historical figure, for example? And again, that would not be the subject. As it turns out, we have to go back a little bit further in the sentence and find the subject right here, each, or each one. This is actually the subject of our sentence. And in fact, it is a singular subject. Each one of these plays, we're talking about these plays individually, singly. Therefore, our verb must be singular. When we look at our choices, B, C, and D are all plural. The only singular choice, and therefore the answer is choice A. We would say each one of these plays focuses on a single historical figure, and that works. If you do the same with B, C, and D, they're not going to sound quite right. For example, each one of these plays are focused on a figure. That doesn't work. Here are a few additional tips for solving these. You'll note when I read the sentence before, determining choice A was the answer. The stuff between commas, we can temporarily remove it from the sentence, and that may make it easier to hear which of these choices is correct. So stuff between commas, trim it out. Just focus on the connection between the subject and the verb. Another thing you can do, this works almost always, but it's good to back this up with understanding why it's right. Notice of the choices here, only one of these choices was a singular verb, focuses, right? It focuses on blah, blah, blah. Whereas B, C, and D are all plural. They focus, they are focused, they were focused. And a lot of times you'll see this. 3 choices will go one way, 1 choice will go the other. And so it's very likely the odd choice out, right, the one that's different from the rest, is going to be right because all of these are plural, and I suppose they could have worked depending on what's going on in the sentence if the subject were plural. But since it's singular, it's got to be choice A. Final point, you may have thought that tense of the verb mattered here, and certainly we could have a conversation about that. But that's why I said in the beginning, the first thing to think about when you see verbs in choices is subject-verb agreement. Because in this case, regardless of what we think about the tense of this verb, the only option is A, based on that singular plural decision. So yes, could it be past tense like choice D, or could it be a specific kind of present tense like A or C? Sure, but we don't have to worry about that because once we determine it's got to be singular, there's only one choice left, and that's choice A.